Namaste. There isn't a single day in my household, and I'm sure many households, where these questions doesn't come up these days. Am I really living in America? How can Americans let this happen? I mean, how can an entire society feel like it's turning upside down and people still wait for things to change? For a long time, this was honestly mind-boggling to me, until I had some very deep conversation with myself and with my wife about human behavior and how people behave in masses, not as individuals, in masses. That's when things started to make sense. So, before I even begin, I want to say this clearly. This knowledge revelation alone is enough to prevent people from being controlled, to understand yourself better. Not choosing sides, but clarity. You see, most of us think that we have clarity, but we don't. We are alarmed, not clear. We are overstimulated, not informed. We are emotionally triggered, not grounded. And one dangerous illusion that we carry is this, that history won't repeat itself here, not in America. Even though we say all the time that history repeats itself, sometimes inside we believe that we are exception. But history doesn't repeat because people are evil. History repeats because confusion spreads faster than clarity. Clarity saves civilization. Confusion destroys them. Here's something we must understand without judgment. As individuals, many of us can think clearly, straight. We can sense when something feels wrong. We can see contradictions. But mass behavior is not individual behavior. Mass psychology is a completely different game. And people who crave power understand this deeply. They don't need to convince everyone. They only need a few people to hesitate. And hesitation is fueled by fear, very specific fear. So let's talk about those fears one by one. First, fear of social cost. People worry, what will my friends think? What if I lose respect? What if I'm labeled, misunderstood, or mocked? That's fear of social cost. Humans are social creatures. Being cast out, even subtly, feels like a threat to survival. So many people just stay quiet, not because they agree, but because they don't want to pay the social price. Another type of fear is the fear of losing stability. And this one is huge. See, people think, I have a job, I have bills, I have a family to protect. What if speaking up is going to cost me everything? When fear touches survival, your logic retreats. People choose temporary safety over long-term truth. Next, fear of being isolated. Isolation is one of the deepest human fears. You see, to stand alone, even briefly, feels unbearable to many. So people wait for others to speak first. But when everyone is waiting, silence becomes normalized. Then there's fear of being targeted. This fear is not talked about a lot. People ask themselves, what if I become the example? What if attention turns toward me? When power wants obedience, it doesn't need to punish everyone. It only needs to punish a few people in public. That fear spreads faster than facts. I want you to understand, none of this means people are weak. It just means that they are human. And this is exactly why mass control is easier than individual control. Vedic wisdom understood this thousands of years ago. The scriptures never studied humans only as individuals. They studied collective consciousness. They explained how societies fall under the influence of something called gunas: rajas, agitation, outrage, constant reaction; tamas, numbness, denial, exhaustion. What's the point? And then sattva, clarity, discernment, steady awareness. When a society is pushed constantly into rajas and tamas, people either become reactive or they shut down. Both are easy to control. A reactive crowd can be provoked, and a numb crowd can be led. But a crowd with clarity cannot be manipulated easily. That's why clarity is always the first thing attacked. In Bhagavad Gita, it explains with brutal precision. It says that even thinking about chaos repeatedly weakens the intellect, buddhi. You don't even have to act. Just repeated exposure to fear, to drama, lies, outrage, slowly erodes memory, erodes discernment and courage. So when intellect weakens, people lose the ability to connect cause and effect. And then they say things like, something feels wrong, but I can't explain why. Or I'll just focus on my life, or let's wait and see. You see, this is not apathy, this is called confusion. And here's the most important part. If people react without understanding, they become predictable. And predictable people are easy to steer. That's why knowledge is dangerous to corrupt evil power. Clarity and knowledge. The moment you understand why people freeze, why they wait, why they rationalize things, you stop feeling helpless. You stop feeling crazy. You stop doubting yourself. And slowly, your voice returns. Vedic wisdom never asked people to panic. It never asked people to become violent. It asked people to wake up. Awake enough to notice when dharma is not practiced. Awake enough to see normalization of cruelty. And most importantly, awake enough to not trade clarity for comfort. The scriptures are very, very clear about this. Evil doesn't need your support. It only needs your confusion. So, I want to leave you with this. If you've been feeling uneasy, if you've been wondering why so many people seem frozen, and you're not alone. The first act of resistance is not protest. It's not outrage. It's clarity. Clarity brings courage. And courage brings voice. And voice brings alignment. And alignment is what has always changed history. Stay clear. Confusion ruins civilization. Clarity saves them. And that's where everything begins. Namaste.